Good day and positive vibration to you all. This is Major, and thank you for tuning in Major TV. Let's talk. First and foremost, please like and share this video. Please like and share this video. I want to discuss with you all today Roe versus Wade. What do this mean, and how do it affect everyone? Recently, it's been reported that they may overturn Roe versus Wade. And if you're not familiar with Roe versus Wade, I want to definitely share this case. This was a case by the United States Supreme Court in which Roe versus Wade was a landmark decision of the United States Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the Constitution of the United States protects a pregnant woman's liberty to choose to have an abortion without excessive government restriction. When looking at Roe versus Wade and what we know it to be, largely we get a lot of information from what we see on television, we hear on the radio, in the media per se. And a lot of time we make our conclusion as that. And we hear about different private organizations, even politicians, and sometimes individuals who feel a certain way about pro-life versus abortion. For me, I think it's a bigger story that's not really discussed, that's not popular, that won't be admitted. And it's a big old fight between Republicans and Democrats. And I want to just go into actually the story and how it all came about with the birth control thing that ultimately spurred into we learn about what pro-life versus abortion and so forth on. And I think this would definitely and for what I'm about to do right now, and what I want to discuss about this, I just want to just lay it out to everybody. And we'll build from off that, right? So let me do this right quick. Um, okay. Speaking about how Planned Parenthood changed everything. This is a Time article I ran across, Time magazine article, um, by Colette Arthur. And I was just doing my research before I go off into what it's all about, in my opinion. More than 100 years ago, Sadie Satch tried to give herself an abortion. A 20-year-old mother of three, she and her husband could not afford another child. So on, so one hot July day, 1912, Sadie's husband, Jay, came home from work to find her unconscious in their bed. Their three children screaming. Jay called a doctor who called a nurse who was named Margaret Singer. Singer and the doctor worked for weeks to fight Sadie's sepsis and nurse her back from the brick of deck. When she was finally getting better, Sadie asked the doctor if there was anything she could do to prevent another pregnancy. In her memoir, Singer later wrote that the doctor advised Sadie to resist any more such capers, then this happened. I know, daughter, she replied timidly, but she hesitated as though it took all her courage to say, what can I do to prevent it? The doctor was a kindly man and he worked hard to save her. But such incidents had become so familiar to him that he has long lost whatever delicacy he might once have had. He laughed good naturedly. You want to have your cake and eat it too, do you? Where it can't be done. Then picking up his hat and bag to depart, he said, tell Jake to sleep on the roof. I glanced quickly at Miss Satchin, even though my sudden tears could see stamped on her face an expression of absolute despair. We simply looked at each other, saying no word until the door had closed behind the doctor. He shifted her thin, then she shifted her thin blue van hands and clapped back beseechingly. He can't understand. He's only a man. But don't you please tell me the secret. I'll never breathe it to a soul, please. 3 months later, Jake Sage called Singer again. This time, Sadie died 10 minutes after Singer arrived. That's when Singer decided I was finished with palliatives and superficial cures. I was I was resolved to seek out the root of evil to do something to change the destiny of mothers whose miseries were as vast as the sky. Margaret Singer knew the rise of what she called biological slavery firsthand. She helped deliver one of her own siblings when she was just 8 years old. Her mother ultimately gave birth to 11 babies, all 10 pounds or more, before she died at around 40, and her death likely accelerated by the physical toll of her pregnancies. When Singer left home to practice medicine, she met desperate immigrant women in New York tenements who wanted one thing more than anything else to learn the secret of how to avoid having children. She wrote that the doomed women implored me to reveal the secret rich people had offered to pay me extra to tell them. Many really believe I was holding back information for money. There was not yet a secret birth control that could prevent pregnancy, but there was an enormous amount of ignorance about basic biological processes. So Singer started writing, aiming to prevent young girls from entering into sexual relations, whether in marriage, out of it, without thinking and knowing how their bodies work. One of the essays she wrote were banned as obscene. She was indicted and fled the country. She returned when one of her children died of pneumonia. Charges were dropped. That's when Singer, along with her sister, Ethelbert, Ethelburn, and nurse named Fania Mandel, started the first birth control clinic in the United States, which opened its doors on October 16, 1916, at 46 Amboy Street in Brooklyn. They distributed pamphlets that said, "You can afford to have a large. Can you afford large to have? Can you afford to have a large family? Do you want any more children? If not, why do you? If not, why do you have them? Do not kill them. Do not take life or prevent." Women lined up around the block, paying 10 cents to meet the nurses. The clinic stayed open for only 9 days before it was shut down by undercover woman posing as a patient. It opened again and was shut down again, and Singer was arrested for maintaining a public nuisance. She opened the clinic a third time on November 16, but authorities forced the landlord to evict her three, and the three women were arrested. Singer appeared before the judge. He waived the Civic Court cat from the bench and argued that no woman should have the right to copulate with a feeling of security that there will be no resulting conception. She went to jail for 30 days. Even though the first clinic stayed open for only 9 days, it was beginning of a birth control movement that would radically revolutionize the way women live their lives and the way society functions. 5 years later, Singer founded the American Birth Control League in 1921. The years old, 21 years after that, the organization was renamed Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood was at the forefront of every birth control milestone of the 20th century. Singer closely followed and even personally funded some of the research that led to the development of birth control pill. Her friend Catherine Dexter McCormick underwrote a large portion of the medical research. FDA first approved the pill for contraceptive use in 1960 and 1965 thanks to a Planned Parenthood lawsuit. States was no longer allowed to outlaw it. Organization came in support of abortion in 1968 and only started performing procedure after it was legalized in the 70s. Singer herself had mixed feelings about abortion. She called the procedure dangerous and vicious, but trusted a woman's instinct about when she should and should not give birth above any moral position on the subject. In other words, she was pro-choice. Singer movements didn't happen in a vacuum. The birth control movement had its roots early social justice movement when women became involved in the abolition movement in the first half of the 18th century. They began to realize that the size of families determined their ability to participate in the outside world. That's when family size began to fall for the first time, according to Jonathan Egg, author of The Birth of the Pill. Women realized that they want to stay engaged in the community. If they want to stay active, they have to have fewer children. He tells Tom that's when you start to see women realizing there is a tie between family size and political power. The personal and political ramifications of that first birth control clinic are countless. You can look at all of human history and see that for 99% of it, women were considered objects like vessels for birthing and caring for children, says Egg. Once you can control your own body, you can control your own life, and then you can assert yourself in your family, your community, and workplace. It's a coincidence then that the rise of birth control coincide with women gaining power in politics, business, education, numerous other areas of life. Though the path to that power may have varied, everyone is connected to the ability to control family size. It seems like a long time, 100 years, 100 years, Ike said, but if you think about how much has changed in 100 years, how unimaginable that this would be. Women on the Supreme Court, women running for president. There's no doubt that it's all connected to access to reliable birth control. Mm. There was a lot said um, with that reading, and I just want to like talk about the story of Maureen Singer and the person who felt the need after witnessing um, his mother try to commit abortion or prevent from having another baby, um, die as a result um, of all that right later. And when I think about, because when I was reading it, right, I was just really trying to get in the mindset of why she was trying to help women. If we know anything about how it was for women way back when, 1800s, 1900s, early 1900s, or what have you, probably further back, women, especially in this country, didn't have a right to do hardly anything. To take care of the family, make babies, etc., etc. Um, Women took huge steps in this country um, to make it better for themselves, right, and family. And that fight still goes on today, especially for melanated women. And when I think about Singer and the mindset she was in and wanting to help women that struggle with trying to control burden children of family size because of affordability. I'm gonna say this. It's interesting. It's very interesting that she envisioned wanting to change what she considered a problem, and what culminated to abortion coming into play, in which they said in the writing that she really was pro-life. She wasn't for it. She thought it was vicious. She thought it was cruel, so to speak, paraphrasing. So fast forward on the Roe versus Wade and what it mean and how it affect everybody. Let's be perfectly clear. What are we dealing with? I'm not here to talk about pro-life or abortion, even though I understand both arguments. I understand different places it's coming from. I see so much of bias, so much of unfair things coming from this, and not a true, honest, excuse me, reaction or conversation about it, especially the powers that be and those who is for pro-life and for abortion. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the people behind the scenes that spew and say a lot of things. When I look at Roe versus Wade, the whole argument was the government exercising abuse of power. It was about the government, and you have to realize we're in a democracy country. Democracy means it's for the people, right? The people have to say the majority, you know. But unfortunately, there are so many psychology games that's played with the people. There's so much propaganda spewed out there. We're talking about excessive power, and that's what area I'm coming from. We have two perfect examples of why this whole way, this Roe versus Wade, is not only an argument for those who are pro-life versus those who for abortion. I have a serious spin I'm gonna share with this after I come to my conclusion. Well, let's talk about sense of power. There's two things that come to mind. One is COVID-19. There was an unknown disease or illness that came out of nowhere that was throwing a flu that was allegedly killing people like that. People dropping like flies, getting sick with that. They didn't know where it comes from. And you've seen governments overpower the people. They literally trust the people hand, and they decided to shut down the country, causing business to go business to go out of business, causing people to lose their residence, causing people to lose what they work hard for. And sadly, the President of the United States said publicly it's the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, causing wreak havoc and confusion in the community, in public places. And the reaction of people went crazy, right? Um, Despite the false claims despite a lot of serious questions and a lot of false claims about COVID in reference to how it was being presented to the people, that you had a preponderance of information spewed that wasn't accurate. You had different vaccines being shot in people that wasn't even at the time really tested or approved by the health authorities. And it's so it was so crazy. I think the spiral out of control. And there were so many people that died, and they were saying it was all correlated deaths, right? That brought into question professions as far as in science and medicine, and even as physicians. And when you look at how COVID changed not just this country, the world, and how people were used as guinea pigs and puppets, how companies co-opted with the government to actually spew so much information. And when you watch the government exercise the power, the abuse of power they did, to now start finding out mandates being shot down because now the Supreme Court sort of said this is unfair and that's unfair. But they literally took the power out of people's hand, and government literally took over and they bullied everybody else to get on board. And it just was so unfortunate when you look at how the government handled COVID-19 and the restrictions, the lack of really fully supporting the people, the big businesses. Yeah, small businesses seeing some income, but when you look at people at the bottom and for a small business and the general population, they suffer. And I don't know, it's crazy when you look at the big picture. Then and so that's one good example I can use. Second example was the Eric Snowden case, where he exposed NSA and this government having really was a global program, but he showed he was a subcontractor. And let me just bring this up anyway. But he exposed the fact that they had been spying on citizens. And let me read it right quick. Edward, I say Eric, I'm sorry, I say his name Eric, I'm sorry, y'all. Edward Snowden. Edward Joe Snowden is an American former computer intelligence consultant who leaked highly classified information from the National Security Agency, NSA, in 2013 when he was an employee and subcontractor. He disclosed for numerous global surveillance programs run by NSA and the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, with the cooperation of telecommunication companies and European governments prompt a cultural discussion about national security and individual privacy. You can go and basically Google Eric Snowden. It was like he's saying Eric. Oh, where I get this name? I keep calling his name Eric. Um, Edward Snowden. And what he revealed. And we have to remember with this situation, this country was, United States was so upset what happened with 9/11 and with the Middle East and different terror groups that they call Taliban, et cetera, Bin Laden, what have you. And even though there's so much stuff we can talk about that, and a lot of misinformation was shared regarding on why these countries or these people in the countries are responding the way they responded um, to America. Um, it is it was a thing whereas they went all out to find out who is doing what, and as we already know, when President Trump was in office, how he was targeting different people from the Middle East and what have you, and how he put a ban, you know what I'm saying, on people traveling to certain countries back and forth. This was very, very, very serious. But when Edward Snowden exposed what this government was doing to its own citizens, and you have big companies like the Facebooks, the YouTubes, Verizon, everybody that was involved with co-opting with the government, giving all our personal information. And there's just so many documentaries and so many stories about as Edward Snowden, but what happened with the Donald Trump thing and how they had a private company that later got arrested, how they were using Facebook and all of them and getting our information, how they can track certain things through algorithm and that. It's crazy, y'all. But this stuff we have to research. But that was excessive government abuse, excessive power by the government. And this was something that was secret. This wasn't like with COVID-19, it just came down to mandates, right? But with this situation spying on private citizens of this country, that was something they just did illegally, and nobody was prosecuted. And for the people to be sleeping on stuff like this, for the people not to understand that the very people we vote in office and how they abuse their power in this country is ridiculous. But they do a great job with their propaganda scheme because they got the media on their side, they got big corporations on their side, and they make sure that they constantly feed us misinformation. They constantly control the conversation, the thought pattern, and what have you. And despite there's so much information out there, we as a people don't do enough to basically find the truth. So what we have people that campaign for our vote, from the president all the way down to city council. And when these people get in position, instead of working for the people, they wind up falling in cahoots with all um, things that's not good. And I'm not speaking about every politician, but I'm speaking about a large percentage of them. And the abuse of power with the government when this is supposed to be a democracy. The people, it's for the people. The people should have a say, should be able to vote. And even though we know voting is bad for melanated people, very, very bad for us, even though we know what the Republicans are doing in reference to how you're setting different districts and all kind of creative state, all kind of creative stuff in different Republican states and what have you. The people are supposed to vote and have to say. But And even I'm thinking about something that just came to my mind, right? And anyway, I'm kind of like things going through my brain. So as I'm talking, I'm just trying to really just articulate what I believe to be um true in my mind. That Roe versus Wade, I don't see it like some people may see it as for the debate between pro life, abortion or what have you. How should I see it as the government stepping in and telling people what they should and shouldn't do? And they play a major part in how they spew information to us. And this is my interpretation, and it's just my opinion. Um, we have overpopulation for one we have to deal with. Overpopulation. And when I checked out overpopulation, right, I just wanted to just basically just check it out, right? And just a little something on this. Okay. We're gonna read this. This is simple. The effects of overpopulation. It is only logical that an increase in the world's population will cause additional strains on resources. More people means increased demand for food, water, housing, energy, healthcare, transportation, and more. All that consumption contributes to ecological degradation, increased conflicts, and higher risk large scale diseases like pandemics. And the reason why I want to talk about overpopulation, who are the majority of people on the earth? So when you go talk about depopulating, they're gonna focus on the majority of people. And we know about the motherland and how large the motherland is, and how many people are all across the diaspora, what have you. Who you think they're thinking about? And so when we talk about debate or Republicans saying they're pro-life, I see it as far as more babies. Then when you see the Democrats saying people have a choice, women have a choice, I see less black babies. So that's my interpretation, right? And I did some research that I'm not gonna really share because some of it look conflicting or what have you. But when you talk about who having more babies versus who having less, melanated people. When you talk about abortion, looks like we're leading that number two, right? But still, white women still abort 1/3. They are 1/3 of people of women, excuse me, that abort their babies. So they get their theory of why we reproduce, and they talk about how it be unplanned parenting and all. And I didn't really want to go into that because some of it can be debated. A lot of it can be debated. But for me, I know that black women we get still fertile. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna speak about nobody else and what have you, but there are different things said and different reports and whatnot. But for me, I really see a situation whereas white people fighting among themselves, and that's how I see this. And unfortunately, they go to the United States Supreme Court, which is a part of um, this ruling class, this system. Though you have minorities or melanated people or um, not all white, you got black, Asian, what have you on there. Still the majority that's conservative. And when it leaked out about they might overturn Roe versus Wade, I still see it as a situation whereas you're still taking the power out the people's hand, putting it to the government. I'm not trying to discuss or debate again about pro-life, abortion, what have you. I'm just trying to have a healthy discussion, get people to think, because there's so much information spewed. There's so much propaganda spewed. There's so much misinformation out there. Now, we don't take the time to research and really understand what's going on. We'll be in the middle of all kind of wars, not understanding what's up, because in the middle of the day, we always caught stuck down in the middle, and even though we hardly even spoke about, but publicly, but behind closed doors, we're always the topic. It don't have to be nothing literally said. It's stuff that is dead. It's words behind closed doors that's expressed that really help them still cold and what they're really trying to do. We as a people have to realize that we the only ones can change this. We the people. And though the people are divided, largely because the power that be played a game on us with divine us by the color of our skin. And racism have many ways prevailed for this country. And I don't believe they don't know any kind of other way but to do what they've been doing. And though I know that's an individual fight in our community, melanated community, to be better, to overcome our crisis, to fight against the social, political, economic ills that we deal with. This is still a people problem. And will make it so hard to really overcome excessive abuse by the government, the fact that when we can't come together, and I'm wrong, COVID showed that in that single instance, people's ready to you're seeing people stand up. If we can have more of that, and we can have the real conversation about what's going on, understand that there's powers that be, very powerful people in powerful places that's pushing the button of buttons with the government, the people that's supposed to serve us, and that they make it seem like we have to serve them. Until we understand that it's going to be the way it is. And it's so unfortunate that right now, because of this decision, Roe versus Wade, that you're about to have a lot of reactions that's not going to be happy reactions. And this fight about what a person should and should not do with their body, and how the government trying to come in and convince the people that this is right and that is right. I don't think it's fair. I think it's up to the people, particularly women, have these real conversations with the people as a whole, supporting what's best for the people, not for the government. So when you look at Roe versus Wade, think about COVID-19, what the government did. Think about Edward Snowden and how he exposed the government getting many companies to give them our information and violate our individual privacy. Think about that. Think about, and I wanted to say this. Think about decisions. Plessy versus Ferguson, I believe. Equal but separate, I believe the phrase. Think about that landmark decision that lasted until 1954, where Brown versus Board of Education. For a long time, government been able to oppose segregation, be able to oppose was able to impose segregation and impose Jim Crow, impose all kind of laws backed by government, right? Even if you have the powerful that's behind the scenes pushing the button, dictating, and in the government exercising against the people, it's supposed to serve the people. Because of racism, because of discrimination, white people see no problem with it until what's affecting them, and now they have something to say and they want people to be involved, like the COVID-19. And it's just an unfair playing field for people of color. But I'm going to say this before I close. You have to think for yourself. You have to research, you have to see what's going on and not buy into all the rhetoric and all this stuff that's really is not helping what we're dealing with. In my honest opinion, it will always be people versus the government. Because the government is comprised of people that is in office due to them asking for votes, and when they get there, most of them, not all, are bought off. And most of them do abide by the social order and how things are going. And unfortunately, because of them being controlled, because of them abusing their power, they are doing what they're doing. So for me, it's just abuse of power for the government to even take away democracy from any individual when they claim they're the leader of the free world. So this is Major TV. If you like this video, like it, share it. If you're new to my channel, hit the notification button and notification bell. I drop content often. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Y'all be safe. Y'all be smart. Just be you. Peace.
This is Major TV and this is brought to you by Major. Like and subscribe to get your notifications. Couldn't do it without you, need your full participation. And we giving back, this is your appreciation. Tune in.